Swift is a HPC code that is used to simulate the universe, which, you know, everybody likes a good bit of the universe simulation. This is a galaxy cluster that we simulated with our previous generation code. Basically, we use particle-based methods to solve n-body gravity and hydrodynamics, and then we have another model that we have on top, and then stuff happens and you get galaxies out at the end of it. Now, the science here is galaxy formation and cosmology, but in terms of the computing, we have a very, very large dynamic range, and this causes a number of problems because to do the calculations we have to use multiple time stepping, and so you can end up in situations where you only have 2 particles to update in a single step, but you are running on 30,000 cores. So we have to come up with a bunch of ways to solve this. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into those today. Now, Swift is, by brand new, I mean it hasn't 1.0 yet. Open source and open development code for astrophysics, so you can download the latest master branch and that has a whole lot of stuff in it, including our subgroup models, which is slightly different than other groups. Yeah, it adheres strictly to the C99 standard, and so it was a very easy port to ARM. It compiled out of the box and passed all of our correctness tests out of the box as well. Now, it was designed to be primarily used for cosmological simulations, but this is a planetary physics simulation that we did with the code. Okay, now we also decided it would be a good idea to use the blue field stuff. And James Legg, who's at the back, was doing the majority of this. You say you got it to work? You got the blue field to work?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we ran a data transfer demo based on verbs, and what this did was it transferred data from the ARM processor on the card to a regular Intel node. And then now we're thinking about how can we use this sort of technology within Swift. So it's kind of difficult to see how this technology will play out, because as far as I see it, I would rather have more nodes than a bunch of these fancy cards. But there are a number of things that we could do. So we could use this chip to repackage data before we send it across the network instead of doing that on the main chip, and free up the main cores to be doing more number crunching. We can select specific data to send, and we can also, the ideal situation that I would have is this chip on this card does all of the MPI layer work for you, and the only thing that you have to worry about is calling your sends and receives, and then the MPI library never takes over and decides it's going to take a long time to complete all of its calls. All of the MPI stuff will be done on this chip on the card, and then I just get the data I ask for, whereas at the moment that's not the case. But that is not a mode that is available, and I imagine would require significant extra work by Mellanox, but that would be a great thing to see. Okay, so the ARM Catalyst system, we came to the hackathon that was before this one, that was here as well, but in this building is pretty much nicer than the one that we had last time, which is nice. So last time we had the code fully ported and ready to go. We put together a bunch of performance benchmarks. We had hand vectorization to the Neon system ported already. And so we have a couple of things here that I'll show you. So the first time we used this system, it was a bit of a mess because it was like it just been installed and nothing really worked. There was no like default compiler option set. Half of the compilers didn't work, but you know we got through it. And the thing that's interesting here is that this is the number of steps in the calculation versus the amount of time that we spent. And there are 3 lines here. So this black one is ARM Clang, which is the default compiler at that time. This blue one is GCC 8.2, and then this is what happens when you include the ARM performance map library. So you see that makes a huge difference. At the time, that didn't work with GCC, but as I understand it, now we've got that working with GCC as well. But we're happy just sticking with ARM Clang because the actual performance difference between those 2 compilers directly was not that significant. So we also looked at the SMT mode. So the ARM chips can run with up to 4 threads per core, as opposed to the typical 2 threads that you get on Intel with hyperthreading. And what we found is the difference between the 3 modes is somewhat small. But if we run Swift with 2 threads per core on the SMT2 mode, so you boot the system such that it only exposes 2 threads per core to the operating system, that was the one that we got the most performance out of. And then the final one is we looked at different allocators. So, and how our internal pinning for our threads worked. And what we saw there was that TBmalloc, which is actually an open source Intel library, was the best allocator on this platform, as opposed to TCmalloc, which I think is Google's version of malloc. And obviously our pinning worked because it made things faster instead of making things hang, which is always good. Because we don't use OpenMP, we have our own thread library that we use, and so we have to check that the pinning works everywhere because somebody didn't set that up for us. Okay, so we also performed a quick scaling test last time. This is a representative problem for our code. On the horizontal axis here, you have number of threads. On the vertical axis on the left, you have the time to solution. On the right, the parallel efficiency. So what we see here is that the catalyst system, which is the blue line, well, so there are two things here. So yes, the performance is worse, but the parallel efficiency is better. And it's unclear whether that is due to the presence of, on the Skylake system, which was Cosmos 7, it's unclear whether that's due to the presence of turbo boosting on that system, right? So if we only run the code on one core, that core gets a clock speed of like 4.5 gigahertz or something like this. And so obviously it's going to run faster than if you run the same problem but you fill up all of the rest of the cores with stuff. And so we didn't do that comparison because we didn't have time. So I think a more realistic scaling here would be something like it's starting up here. So the actual performance difference between the two is only a factor of 2 or 3. And so we're quite happy with that. Yeah, so we came back this time happy and ready to go. So we had these objectives, so we wanted to get MPI working, because last time the libraries weren't there, but they were there, they just didn't work. We wanted to tune out I/O for the file system that they had, because the last time the file system was dreadful, now there's a better new one. And we wanted to check our MPI implementation was working well. We wanted to get our Python toolchain running, get our other tools, so Velociraptor, which is the structure finder we use, running, and we wanted to start something that would look like a production run. Now we did all of this apart from the tuning, because the file system is only 4.5 terabytes, and so I don't think there's that much point in tuning directly for that specific file system right now. But everything else we got going. So for the MPI, it actually worked this time. We were able to run on 2 nodes concurrently, which was something we couldn't do last time. After about 50,000 steps though, our code crashed with some UCX stuff and we reported it to the sysadmin, and hopefully that's fixed soon. Our Python toolchain, which relies heavily on Number, which is a JIT compiler for Python, this gives us about 1,000x speedups in some routines. So if you've never used this before, you should give it a go. Unfortunately, this didn't just pip install out of the box, and I had to build our own version of LLVM. But that was much easier than I thought it would be, and that worked fine. So we now have the code working over MPI once they've fixed some UCX problem, and we have our Python toolchain. We got our structure finder Velociraptor up and running out of the box. That required no changes, and so now we have everything we need to do a full production run and get science results out at the end, which is really nice. All in 2 hackathons time, because during the intervening time we had other things to do. So we started a production run, which is a 12 megaparsec box with 188 cube particles in it. So it's not the biggest box, but it is a cosmology problem. And this is so on the horizontal axis, this is redshift. So time goes from right to left, which is a little bit odd. On the vertical axis, this is how many stars you're forming as a function of time. And the blue line is the ARM system, and the purple line is the Intel system. And this fluctuation is about the level of noise we see, because Swift, because of its task-based parallelism, is not directly reproducible. And so we're very happy with these results. We've got a nice pretty picture at the end. So this is the temperature distribution in that box. In these little balls is where the galaxies live. So we made some galaxies on this ARM machine, which was very nice to see. Now in terms of performance of this, which is the full model, we get a much deeper time step hierarchy than we would in one of our smaller test cases where we only run it for 1,000 steps or something. And you get to see how this evolves over an individual run. So on the vertical axis, this is essentially simulation time elapsed, and the simulation gets more complex as it goes on. And on the horizontal axis, this is the amount of time that we've spent running on the system, so this is walk-up time. And what we see is everything's great up until this point in the simulation, so they perform very, very similarly up until this point in the simulation, where they start to diverge. And what we believe, so this is where the time step hierarchy becomes very, very deep. So we get very, very many small time steps that don't update very many particles. And these, in general, are actually compute bound, not memory bandwidth bound. And so I think that's why the Intel is winning out significantly there. And so, I mean, we probably want to do some more performance profiling because in this state, we can definitely use it for production runs, but surely we should be able to get these to converge a little bit better. And that's probably just something to do with tweaking something specifically for this system. Okay, so in summary, we're ready to run production runs on this new system after 6 days of effort in total, so we're very happy with that. And we will be using it in the future for calibration. We have an SPE port, which is being worked on by Alexei Borisov, who's our RSE, who's giving a talk through that wall right now. And yeah, so it's been a great experience, and it really helps to have the technical staff available during the hackathon. We saw this for the blue field, but seeing as we were mainly fighting hardware things there, I think James had some interaction with the sysadmins and things that was really helpful. But on our side, where we spent most of the time working on the ARM system, having those engineers there who have compiled this piece of code before, who know what the problems are, that is really invaluable. So, thanks very much.
Any questions for Josh?
Do you think you said you thought you should be able to make those two curves, performance curves, converge?
Yeah.
Why do you think you'll be able to do that? Because if it's really compute bound,
Well, because we haven't really spent much time tweaking the performance in the compute for this system. So we haven't looked at vectorization reports, we haven't looked at anything like that yet. Mm-hmm. And so I would hope that we would be able to recover some of this difference. Mm-hmm. Because right now this is essentially flatlining. This is not making any progress in the simulation at all. And so I think that's probably just due to us messing something up on the ARM system that vectorizes perfectly well on the Intel one. Because on the Intel system, all of our gravity vectorizes the AVX512 perfectly, but that may not be the case on the ARM. And it's when you start getting to this point in the simulation that and other things start really taking over. It's all the very, very dense bound stuff that starts taking over the complete runtime of your simulation. And so that's what we can look into, is those vectorization reports and things like this. Unfortunately, the tools aren't as good on ARM as they are on Intel for that sort of thing. But yeah.
Do you have, sorry, because do you have any rate functions like SQRT, style trigonometric functions, etc. in your computations?
Yes.
Because from what I saw in my code, ARM can vectorize efficiently that one. Can't.
Okay.
So I had to replace. When I replaced that one with explicit intrinsics, I got significant boost.
Right. Okay. So that might be something worth looking into.
So it's worth telling her, did you tell her or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just wait for them to fix that.
It's easier.
Yeah.
Always easier.
Okay.